Okay, this is your 10.1 one-step algebraic equations from MathLinks 8. These are your solutions to the questions that were assigned. The first question, question 7, says solve by inspection. So in order to solve by inspection, you need to write a sentence on a test that shows me I know what you thought about. So this says negative 8 multiplied by what number is 64. So the two things I know is negative 8 times what type of number would be a positive. I know that the first thing I know is that it's negative. And the second thing I know is that 8 times 8 is 64. So therefore, the solution has to be negative 8. Okay? I know that a negative times a negative is the only way I get a positive answer. Should be there now. Check down. Yeah. Yeah. Second question says 5 multiplied by what number is negative 25. So 5 times, is it going to be a positive number or a negative number? If it's going to be negative because a positive times a negative is the only way you get a negative. So we know it's going to be negative, and I know that 5 times 5 is 25. So therefore my answer is negative 5. Now for the third one, I'm going to read it kind of backwards. I'm going to go, what number divided by 3 is negative 6? That's the question I have to ask myself. What number divided by 3 is negative 6? So is it going to be a positive value or a negative value? We know it's going to be negative because a negative divided by a positive is the only way I get a negative answer. So we know it has to be a negative value. And what number divided by 3 is 6? 18 divided by 3 is 6. So your answer for C is negative 18. And the last one, what number divided by negative 11 is negative 4? Well, I know that a positive divided by a negative will give me this negative answer. So I know my answer has to be a positive value. So it's positive. And what number divided by 11 is 4? The answer is 44. All right. Next questions. Question 8 uses mental math to solve each equation. So for this one, do we not do this one? Okay. We'll skip this one. 9. We already did it. We'll do it again. No, we won't. Yes, we will. No, we won't. Okay. Question number 11 says, by which number would you divide both sides by? A, you divide both sides by negative 3 to isolate. In B, you divide both sides by negative 4 to isolate. In question C, you divide both sides by negative 9 to isolate. And in question D, you divide both sides by positive 4 to isolate. Remember that when you're dealing with getting rid of the coefficient, you don't use the opposite of the coefficient. You use the same number. That's sometimes confused by the constant because in this equation, you have to use the opposite number, right? Which some people confuse that if it was negative 2x, they think they have to divide by a positive 2. But that's not true. When you're getting rid of a coefficient, you have to use the same number. Just the opposite operation. In question 13, solve each equation using opposite operations. So for the first one, I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and I get s equals 3. In the next one, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 12. I'm going to get j equals 13. Is it a positive 13 or negative 13? Positive, because negative divided by negative is positive. In C, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 4. J is going to equal negative 26. And the last one, divide both sides by negative 27. T will equal a positive 4. In question 15, by which number would you multiply both sides of the equation to solve? Remember, we're not dealing with the opposite number, we're dealing with the opposite operation. So this time, dividing by negative 6, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 6. That's the answer. It doesn't say to solve it, just what would you do. In this one, I'm going to multiply both sides by a positive 3. That's your answer. In C, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 21. That's your solution. And in D, I'm going to multiply both sides by positive 17. Question 17, solve each equation using opposite operation. So now I'm going to solve it. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 because the opposite of division is multiplication. I get T equals negative 36. Over here, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 10. I get H equals negative 120. That's what this works out to be right here, negative 120. Over here, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 7. I get S equals negative 105. You're right. Thank you. 105. I thought it was 95. And in the last one, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 9. I get positive 540, 567. I got it before you. Oh, it's close. Positive 567 equals X. For question 19, it says show whether X is negative 2 to the solution. So for this one, what we're going to do is you're going to use the operation or the idea of substitution, and simplification. Do you guys have this one? Oh, you don't have it. We go to 22? No. You guys don't have 21 either? The month of January? Oh, yes, you do. Okay, so let's try this one then. So for story problems, you're going to always start with the same thing. You're going to write the first statement as X equals, and you're going to define what it is you're going to look for. So for the month of January, the average afternoon temperature in Calgary is a quarter of the average temperature of the morning. The average afternoon temperature is negative 4 degrees. What is the average morning temperature? So we don't know what the average morning temperature, and in 99.9% of all story problems that deal with algebra, the first thing you're going to do is put X equals the average morning temperature because you're going to look for it, right? You want to solve for the thing you don't know, and you don't know what number that average morning temperature is, so you're going to make it the unknown variable. Okay? So 1/4 of the morning temperature, so 1/4 of X, or 1/4 of the morning temperature, the average morning temperature is the same thing as negative 4 degrees. So 1/4 of the morning temperature is the afternoon temperature. So when I set it up, I have 1/4 of X, or 1/4 of the morning temperature, is, that's the equal sign, negative 4 degrees, which is the afternoon temperature. Now here's where before I told you that this idea right here can be thought of like that, or it can be thought of like this, or it can even be thought like this. All three of these are the same thing. And this right here is the same thing as saying 1/4 of the morning temperature. So I want to really write it like 1/4 of the morning temperature is equal to negative 4. And now I simply want to apply opposite operation to multiply both sides by 4. And I get X equals negative 16. Now in story problems, you're not done. The last thing you have to do is write this. Therefore, the average morning temperature, which should be colder than the afternoon, is negative 16 degrees Celsius. And that makes sense, because if it's 1/4 of that, it would be negative 4, which is the afternoon temperature. And your last question? Well, we'll do 22 as the last question. Question 22, it says, Nakasuk's snowmobile can travel 13 kilometers on a liter of gas. He is going to visit his aunt in the community 312 kilometers away. Nakasuk wants to know how many liters of gas he needs to travel his community. So again, X equals, and then since my last question was how many liters of gas, that's probably what we're going to have to, how many liters of gas he needs, right? So if you think about 13 kilometers per, hang on one second. So if I think 13 kilometers per liter, so 13 multiplied by the number of liters he needs. If every liter can travel 13 kilometers, then 13 multiplied by the number of liters of gas he needs should take him the full distance of 312 kilometers. So if I think about it as 1 liter of gas will be 13 kilometers, 2 liters of gas would be 26 kilometers, I don't know how many liters I need, but I have to multiply it by 13 to figure out how many I need to travel 312 kilometers. So when you isolate the variable by dividing both sides by 13, you get x equals 24, and therefore he needs 24 liters of gas to go to Auntie's house. So first thing you need to do is write your tag sentence, define your variable. Next thing you need to do is write your equation. The next thing you need to do is solve your equation. And the last thing you need to do is write a sentence that explains you know what your answer means. Okay? As always, if you like this video, slap the like button. If you don't like it, be what Logan does and just slap the dislike button.